Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. So I read this book actually when I was on a hospital bed and I had just gotten my arm almost chopped off. This book was given to me. Yeah, that's a long story. You can watch the YouTube channel and figure that one out. So this was the perfect book for reading after I was in a serious, I guess you could say a car, ATV, whatever you want to call it, accident. Man's Search for Meaning. So Viktor Frankl was in the concentration camps when Nazi Germany took over and started just eradicating people. And the premise of his book is to tell the story of him surviving in the concentration camps and seeing all of the death and disparity around. And interestingly enough, that the psychological shift in himself versus others whom he stood next to, the meaning that he placed in his life for what had just happened or occurred to him, meaning he was just thrown into these camps. He didn't control that. He found meaning in that by using it as a real life case study to further his psychological understanding, because he was very interested in psychology. He was somewhat, it looks like, a clinician. And he actually came up with logotherapy, a way of helping individuals cope with life through this experience in the concentration camps. And there's some intriguing and powerful sentiments in this book about human behavior and psychology and generosity and love. For example, there were inmates that he felt were less giving or less generous or less loving than some of the prison guards. And it was this, just think of this real life case study to weigh humanity against itself. Prisoners and prison guards, individuals who died, individuals who survived. And I guess my perspective of the book after reading it, you know, and in a time where I was struggling, physically struggling, was that we create the meaning in our lives. Simply as that we can either take things as negative, we can take things positive, and that's become almost a cliche these days, like, oh, you know, take it in stride. I think Nietzsche said, if the why is strong enough, you can bear anyhow. You know, life is suffering. It's how your will to power can overcome that. Like, philosophers have said this in different ways. There isn't anything cliche about it. You know, Viktor Frankl went into those camps like everyone else, and he found meaning in those camps by finding something more important than him to discover and work on and extrapolate and figure out. And he did that. He put it into he actually created a therapy and used that to help people long after the camps. And this is a book that every human should read, you know, starting as a young child, because without us studying history and interpreting it in a more positive way, we're going to end up repeating it.